although the meltdown that's been happening over the other side of Glasgow has been absolutely fantastic to watch on the YouTube channels that have been featuring a lot of the nonsense that's been going on. We need to think about tomorrow night's game, and there's been a little bit of a development that I think might surprise people on the team selection, what I think might go out tomorrow night. But we're going to talk about players first of all. When you look at the fact that Kyogo Furuhashi, Dyson Maeda, Callum McGregor, Lil Abada, Anthony Ralston, Rio Hatate, Matt O'Reilly and Stephen Welsh have all put pen to paper for new extended deals, and then the news comes out about the fact that Greg Taylor and Cameron Carter-Vickers could be up next for extended deals at Celtic. We're going to talk about a player that spent 1 year at Celtic and has now been talking about why he left, allegedly. He's given the reason why he thinks that he left Celtic after 1 year. He was an absolute legend at his time. He was known as the Three Amigos, and it's the one and only Paolo Di Canio. Paolo Di Canio has been talking about the fact, and he's given the reason why he thinks he left Celtic. He said, look, when I shake hands, said Paolo Di Canio. Now, you've got to remember, Paolo was absolutely fantastic at Celtic back in the 1990s under Tommy Burns. A lot of you probably weren't even born then to watch this channel, but there will be a lot of people that do watch the channel remember him fondly. And he was absolutely bonkers at Celtic, as he was at West Ham. But he said, Di Canio said, look, when I shake a hand, he said, it counts for me, much more than 1,000 contracts that I signed. At the beginning of the season, we negotiated the first season in Scotland, the contract. The negotiations, you ask about money and bonuses and something like that. At the end of it, they didn't give me what I expected. I say, okay, at the end of the season, if I'm doing well, you know, I score 10 goals, assists, become an important part of the team, an important player, we renegotiate the contract, says Paolo. They said, okay, we put a clause in that. Now, you remember at the time it was Fergus McCann that was the owner of Celtic, and we all know how Fergus ran the club, and it was a pretty tight ship. He said, okay, we'll do that at the end of the season. Give me your hand. In front of my agent, I shook his hand, says Paolo. At the end of the season, everyone voted me player of the year, but straight away they were quick to say, no, we do not renegotiate, because from our point of view, you didn't have a good season, says the chairman. You can just imagine the little bonnet at the time. Now everyone remembers, I mean, I think Tommy Burns actually said at the time that, look, we had to get him out of the club as he was a disruptive figure within the team. So, but Paolo went on to say, so I was speaking with the media and I say, I'm not happy here because they did not respect the word I said. I said to the chairman through my agents, you want to sell me because you don't know if you can give me my best price here. That's something that's probably lost in translation. But Di Canio went to Sheffield Wednesday for $4 million. And then he went on to West Ham. And he was a bit of a crazy player at the end of the day, but anyway, he's been talking about Celtic, and he said basically Celtic wouldn't give them the money that he asked for. Does that sound familiar? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Anyway, so moving on to the modern day and the game. I've been looking for some news about the Celtic Lazio game, and I come across a France24.com article that was released this morning, and then it says Celtic aim to end a 10-year Champions League drought against Lazio. The once feared fortress of European football, Celtic Park. Celtic are aiming to end a 10-year wait for a Champions League win at home on Wednesday night. When you look at it like that, if you remember back, it was probably Barcelona, and that was a fantastic evening. And it was the 125th anniversary of Celtic, and it was the first time that Celtic had done, well, the Green Brigade, sorry, not Celtic. It was the first time that the Green Brigade done a full stadium banner and tifo, and that was absolutely amazing. It was a brilliant night, and it was all set up for a Celtic win, and they did. Brendan Rodgers has wasted no time, this report says on his return to the Hoops, finally revealing an ambition to finally make his mark on the Champions League. In domestic football, Celtic remain a class of their own, having won 11 of the last 12 Scottish Premier titles. Yes, we did. And but it's all in the past. They also went on to say the 4 domestic trebles in the past 6 seasons. But Rodgers was in charge of the first spell at the club, and he said, let's face it, in 2017, away to Anderlecht, after failing to qualify for the Champions League for the next 4 seasons, Celtic have collected just 2 points from 6 games and returned to the Champions League under Ange Postecoglou, despite some impressive performances, says France24.com. The reality of facing Rodgers was laid bare in the 2-0 defeat to Feyenoord 2 weeks ago. And let's face it, getting put down to 9 men didn't help. After a bright start, the visitors are undergone by red cards for new signings Gustav Lagerby and Odin Ohm. Those inexperiences showed in their Champions League debuts. Now, I'm going to give you the team that I think might start tomorrow night. And there's an addition to the team that might upset a lot of you. But there's a player that I think will start due to his experience. Brendan Rodgers did talk about inexperience before, and I think this player will start due to his experience in playing in Europe and for playing for Celtic for a lot of years. That'll give you a little hint to who I'm talking about. Celtic's business model, went on to say, is hoovering up young talent from around the globe at bargain prices to be developed and sold on with big profits has been highly successful for the club's bank balance, they said. Financial results last season revealed that Celtic recorded a pre-tax profit of $40.7 million, $50 million, it's got in brackets, for the 22-23 season, and $72 million cash in the bank. That surely has to put Celtic as one of the most profitable clubs in the world, you would have thought. When you look at the strategy for the club, it says, signing young players to develop them and improve them, you need quality, you need experience, and obviously the help of the support is potentially the thing that you need to have on the night. They're talking about Brendan Rodgers here, so something that will hopefully happen over the course of my time here. An interview that they took from Brendan Rodgers. Hopefully they can regenerate that into a way. After spending most of his managerial career in the Premier League, Rodgers is having to readjust to living within the constraints and the budget of the small pond of Scottish football. But he still believes that Celtic are capable of far more than they have shown in recent times in European football. The Scottish champions have not won a knockout tie beyond the qualifying stage in any European competition since 2004. I'm not even going to tell you the next bit because it talks about the old Sevco. It's always a challenge, that it went on to say when they're talking about Brendan, it's always a challenge at the highest level, but we will go there and we'll see if we can progress and show that we are a good side. Lazio arrive in Glasgow, sitting just out the Serie A relegation zone, having just won 2 of their opening 7 league games of the season. They only salvaged a point at home to Atletico Madrid in their opening Champions League game, thanks to a remarkable stoppage time equaliser by the goalkeeper. Yes, the goalkeeper scored the goal in the last game. Anyway, moving on from that. It requires Celtic to rise to the Champions League challenge for the first time in a long time, it went on to say. And that's the end of that statement. And that was on France24.com. So it just shows that even though Celtic are in the Champions League, everyone in Europe is talking about Celtic, you know, and we are a global fan base all around the world. Now, getting to the starting 11, this might give you a little bit of a shock, but there is obviously a player that is going to come in and play his first Champions League game for Celtic, and that's Nat Phillips, due to the fact that Gustav did get sent off. Phillips was brought in, let's face it, Phillips was brought in to give us that little bit experience at this level. So my team, I think this is probably the strongest team, and I'm going to go with experience and the strength of the team for this. So obviously you've got Joe Hart coming back in as the goalkeeper, purely for the fact that he has a wealth of experience as a goalkeeper at the higher level. You're then going to have Taylor, Scales, Phillips and Johnston along the back. In defence, in midfield, you're going to have McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. And then on the wing, you're going to have Dyson Maeda. And wait for it, on the other side, I think he's going to start with James Forrest. Purely for the fact that James Forrest has scored against Lazio before. And he has that wealth of experience playing at the top level of Europe, which some of our players don't have. And remember the last game in Feyenoord, the manager did say, look, it was down to inexperience. So for that reason and that reason only, I think James Forrest will start the game. And then you've got Kyogo Furiashi up front. Tell me what you think about that. Make sure to join the live tonight where we will talk about everything Celtic and the game tomorrow evening. So on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world.